Thank you, Margaret. That is delightful. I very much appreciate you being here. Such great music. Wasn't that a great candle lighting service? Tuesday night, outstanding. I loved it. There were many aspects to the whole thing, of course. How many were here? Oh, okay, half of you or so. Well, those who missed it, next year. It's just a great event. Joanna sang for us and did a great job. Noreen put together the whole program in just a delightful way, and of course the choir performed superbly. It was just great to be part of it, be part of the music. I get so moved by many of the pieces. I have to restrain myself. You can't get too moved, otherwise you lose track, and that doesn't sound good. And so and the old story told in a new way. Reverend Larry had a great way, and of course he adapted some of that himself as another Unity minister who had put together a lot of those things. To hear the readers during the reading, the readers did a great job. It was especially heartwarming to see the kids doing some of the reading. I was too shy at that age. I mean, I was a choir boy, I was a little altar boy, but to get up there and read in front of a large group of people at a special event like that, was special. And I know it was special for the parents as well. I mean, this is a moving event to see your child up there and participating like that. It was wonderful. And then to hear Larry extend the story further to the hero's journey. It's not just a journey about Jesus and all the things he's going through, it's each one of us. And we're learning from the big guy and the things that he especially had to share. I initially had various ideas about what to say today, and I shared it with a group of close friends. And they gave me some suggestions about how to change it. Drop this, drop that. You can say that. They were very reassuring, and they're responsible for the great talk you're about to hear. And so I just want to let you know, I am very fortunate to have them help me shape these various ideas and suggestions. I initially was going to talk about the wise men and some, esoteric aspects of that. You get Casey's story of that, and decided, no, that won't do. Anyway, the group said no. So, however, I'm still going to talk about the wise men in this way. There was just a few little blips. I didn't realize how much of this was available. But it was wonderful to find out. Life is too short not to have fun. Did you know that when they extended their gifts to the family, there was also a note attached. It said, "These are for Christmas and your birthday." And this is real for me. My sister's birthday was December 26th. And so, we had to do both. And it worked out pretty well. One year we actually forgot her birthday. You get caught up in things. You're going to midnight mass, you're going to this, and the various families that come over here, we have to get the food ready. We more than made up for it. But, and here's another important story. A friend of mine experienced this, was down in Panhandle of Florida in December, a few years back, and happened to see a creche as part of his business, and was driving by, saw this creche, so stopped and looked at it. Was very taken by it. Loved to see the creches, the variety of creches there are. Oh, I can move this, can't I? Just thought of that. I don't need that. My voice is powerful enough with a lot of help. And so I noticed this creche, but there was something odd about it. The wise men had fireman helmets on their heads. What is this? Thought about that. I'd never seen anything like that. Couldn't come up with an explanation. Happened to have lunch at a restaurant across the street, and so enjoyed the food. And then afterwards, with the cashier, and paying it off and saying, that creche over there is really lovely, but I'm puzzled. Why do the wise men have firemen's helmets? And she said, "Oh, another dumb Yankee. Don't you know better? You don't read the Bible, do you?" She whipped out a Bible from underneath the panel there and said, "It's right here, it's in Matthew." Matthew is the only book that talks about the wise men, but it's there. This is where it says. It says, 3 wise men came from afar. So if you didn't get that, of course, in the South, a fire is called a fart. One last one. This one is actually recorded in the apocryphal books. These are the books that are not authorized by those who think they're in charge of that type of thing. And I happen to notice one, as I read these, I'm very interested in great things wherever they can be found. And at the end of the visit of the wise men, Joseph actually went up to them and said, 3 wise men and no chocolate? So that's my story about the wise men. They had a lot to offer, but so here we are. Another year is upon us. Great turning point, calendar year. These turning points are important. Why are they important? You know, one thing that struck me as I was thinking about it was this is the one celebration the whole world shares. There's no other celebration that all countries, all faiths, all religions, all cultures share. But it's this one. I'm not sure it always did, but it certainly does now. And I think it's fascinating. Eventually, I can't help but think, well, what will we share in the future? Will there be other events that we share besides the beginning of the new year? And as I read some of my stuff, I came across a reference to the fact that one person said, in the future we'll celebrate the life of the Christ, celebrate the life of Buddha, and the life of humanity. I'm sure there'll be more other celebrations of various kinds, but I thought, well, this is interesting. How do they know that? Is that true? Is it going to be that way? Because we're all paying attention to the end of a year and the beginning of another one. At some point, we need to add the spiritual context behind that, and where we're leading to, and what we're drawing upon to make this worthwhile. I can remember, of course, when I was younger, talking about the New Year's resolutions and that kind of thing, and it went somewhere. I don't remember them really standing out as I reviewed the past. But in any event, it is worthwhile asking ourselves, why should we? Where did this idea come from? Often what we do as a whole, or what is passed down in casual ways, but we're still part of, come from seeds of truth, seeds of purpose, seeds of reason. And the more we can connect with that, the more we can use the momentum that is more present. At the end of the year, the beginning of a new year, there is a new beginning. Who doesn't like to start over? Have a do-over? I mean, sure, pushing stuff aside and then opening up for what else is to come. There's a certain energy that comes in waves. And at the end of one year, the beginning of the new, there's another wave of energy. If we can capture that, we can help it to use us in the goals we're trying to set, and give us more energy to propel us so that we follow through with them. The difficulty often isn't so much setting the goals as it is following through and remembering what we're doing and trying to do the best we can with it. So why is it important? Well, because we have to continue to work at remembering who we are and what we stand for. What do we want our life to stand for? And to what extent do we want to put ourselves out there and make a contribution, to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem? In consciousness, this can be a time when we realign ourselves with our ideals. It's an opportunity. Before the beginning of the problems, before the difficulties occur, we know they're around the corner if they're not upon us now. But the more we pay attention to the source from which we draw upon, the less likely things will take us by surprise. The less likely we'll be overwhelmed by disappointments, by losses, by something that happens that is frightening. But we have to make the effort to do that. Ideally, we'd make it on an everyday basis. We often don't do that, but we can get an extra spurt, an extra boost, an extra propulsion by using this particular time of year too. One of the main statements I heard this past year that I am grateful for is that no real growth occurs outside of, or all real growth occurs outside of our comfort zone, not in our comfort zone. Well, if that's true, we have to do what we can to prepare for that or take ourselves beyond it. most of us, I'm certainly part of this, is, ooh, I can't wait till such and such is over, or till that's done, or till I get to watch the game this afternoon, or something like that. Moments of tension we look forward to being done with. And yet, on the other hand, if we only crow when there's moments of tension, how can we learn how to embrace them better? How can we learn how to be right, alert, and ready when they happen, and grab them and know this is happening for a reason, I'm here for a reason, I'm expected to do something and learn from this, if not contribute to it. What can that be? Unfortunately, most of us don't make the changes needed to be successful. I just a few days ago found a wonderful article in the Wall Street Journal that said, these are the reasons why our resolutions don't work. You want to know that, don't you? Okay. We are too demanding, too vague, or too unrealistic. Sorry to have to share the truth. I can verify the truth of all three of those. If we expect too much, we set ourselves up for fail. No question about that. If we're too vague, we don't focus enough. While I was thinking about this, it reminded me of what it was like when I first got a magnifying glass. I must have been 5 or 6 years old, and I learned how to focus the light so I could start a fire. I thought, whoa, this is powerful. This is wonderful. And with my little games, with my figures and marbles and different kinds of things, I started several little fires. Fortunately, none of them were serious. I had a good time with it, but the same idea applies to our life. We need to learn how to focus to get some heat going. If we don't have heat, we don't have an effect. We need to put some energy, generate some energy, so that this new resolution, so that this new goal has some energy behind it, so it really takes off. If we're unrealistic, of course, we don't mobilize the strength and persist. And then when we fall back or miss things and finally remember what we had started up, we blow it. We don't start up again. It's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you pick yourself up. We hear that. But it's a simple phrase. The reason why these simple phrases keep coming back to us is because they're easy to remember. And we want them near the front of our mind instead of the back of the mind. There is a better way, of course, and you came to the right spot to find out ways to be sure you can set the right resolutions and they'll last. I have 3 steps of things to emphasize. Of course, we have to be aware of the obstacles, but the primary emphasis on what can we do? What can we energize and emphasize? First step is to rise above the past. I'm not saying to heal the past. That's big. That's for the chaplains. That's for ourselves to, sometimes we really have to work hard for this. I'm not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that at any point in time, we can rise above the past. We can rise above certain things that happened in the past year. One bite at a time often is what we need to do. Physically, if we take one bite and chew it well, we'll eat slower, the food will digest better, we'll lose weight if we spend a lot of time chewing. We'll enjoy the meal more. It's true. But it's true in consciousness too. One bite at a time. One simple bite here. How can you rise above the past year? One way is to continue to have a list of things that went well that you can reflect back on. Those should be the dominant issues. Unfortunately, many of us have the things that we are disappointed in that are the dominant issues. I want to suggest that the to-do list is very important, but we also have to have a having done well list. And at this point in time, I would like to suggest that you at least call back one memory of one really good thing that happened this past year. Think about it. Call it forth. Consider why it happened. Did you extend yourself in thanks enough to others who might have helped this happen? Or yourself for being attentive, paying attention to it enough, thanking yourself, your higher self? I read an interesting article this morning about diabetes. And they did a study on diabetics, and half of them they exposed to a funny hour time, and the other half just instructions about how to eat well and exercise well. Which one did better, of course. And the ones who were exposed to the funny things, the uplifting things, stories and various things going on, then they had their blood drawn, of course. And what they found was not directly what happened to the blood sugar, but happened to the genes. You know, we got thousands of genes. And when we're feeling good, when we're feeling upbeat, ooh, pay attention. When we're feeling upbeat, the genes, the healthy genes are upregulated. The healthy genes are complex. It's not just one gene in charge of diabetes, one gene in charge of hypertension, one gene in terms of obesity. It's hundreds. And when we're in a good mood, when we're more optimistic, when we're feeling good, those genes get upregulated. We are now finding the connection between what happens in the body with the mind. And that's wonderful. So, one of the ideas, of course, is what is something that was uplifting? What is something that was humorous? What was something that was very enjoyable this past year? And to review those with your friends. One of my delights this past year was discovering fertilizer. Who didn't know about fertilizer? Well, I knew about it for my fruit trees, and they're doing well. We have an orange tree and a tangerine tree, but I hadn't used it for my flowering trees or bushes. I mean, we used to have a few, but one in particular we have is an orchid tree. And we've had it for 10 years. And it's a lovely tree. I love the blossoms. There was always a few blossoms. One year before the drought, we had a blossom all the time, all year round. 12 months, 52 weeks, every day. And it was delightful. I couldn't believe it. All the time there was a blossom on this tree. But a few months ago, I started fertilizing the tree. And a few weeks ago, the tree's full of blossoms. I mean, it's not just 3 or 4, it's 50 blossoms. I can't believe it. How did I miss this? No, I'm enjoying the blossoms, and it's great. And of course, the idea is what's blossoming in your life, and are you paying enough attention to them? Are you paying attention to what fertilizes the good things that happen? And how could you do it more or better? Or are there some other ways that you could make the usual things, the usual relationships, better and more blossoming? And paying attention to that, of course, to help rise above the past. That's one of the ways that it works. Can't change a lot of things that happen. But we can change how we look at it, and we can change on what we focus on today. So for more healing to occur this past year, of course, getting over the past, the burning bowl ceremony is taking place Wednesday night, and you get a chance to really go through the ritual of healing, burning away the past. Second big step is to accept who we are. Responsibility for who we are, our current circumstances. All of them. Well, that may sound unfair. Some of the circumstances are huge, have nothing to do with us, seemingly nothing to do with us, but of course our reaction to them we are responsible for. Or whatever they are, we are responsible. So, do we get upset? Do we get angry? Do we blame? Do we complain? Do we withdraw? Do we say, it couldn't be me, I didn't do that? No, we're responsible for that. Remember the serenity prayer? God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I heard a new twist on this, and I think you'd like to hear this one. God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change. Aha. Does that sink? The courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. It's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's not my brother or my sister, but it's... And of course, this is a unity way. We know this, we hear this, we believe it, we try to live it. Of course, you keep hearing, keep going to talks, keep going to classes, keep reading things because we haven't quite fully identified with it. That's the idea, to identify with points of truth and take them in so that they're right at the tip of our tongue, right in the front of our mind, so that they're accessible as soon as we need them. Actually, it's best to have them up there before we need them, and then they're really available to us. This particular twist came from a wonderful gift I was given this past year, which was to read a book called QBQ, The Question Behind the Question. Anybody here read it? In the first service, nobody. In this service, nobody. Well, you all are in store for a great book. It's easy to read, bold print, short chapters. You read the whole thing in an hour or two. It's filled with personal experiences. John Miller is the author. And in it, one other chapter I thought you'd find interesting is called the chapter on the power of one. In it, he talks about the power of the team. And the unfortunate way sometimes that we use the team, we blame the team for not doing enough. That organization or that group didn't do enough. Well, maybe they weren't given enough resources. We can come up with reasons why not. Maybe they didn't pay attention to their mission, or they didn't revise their mission, didn't have a good enough mission. Well, I'd like to suggest, of course, that a team is our family, our favorite groups that we belong to, participate in, our church here too. We need to pay attention. John Miller suggests that personal accountability isn't about blaming the team, the country, or the other party. It certainly is not about changing others. It's about making a difference and changing ourselves, of course. Personal accountability, the power of one. I can do something about the life I'm leading now. Me, myself, and I, my body, my mind, my spirit, we are enough for the circumstances in front of me to add to solving or healing or advancing them further. So the second step is accepting who we are, the circumstances, and our ability to react in a beneficial, a helpful way. Third step is to reach for what we need, not what we want. We have to learn how to separate our wants from our needs. What tastes good, what feels good might not be what's good, what's healthiest. Greatest good for the greatest number. Several years ago, a conscious, curious, dedicated group of people set upon themselves to study the major world religions, cultures, races, works of literature, and they took a great deal of time studying this. They identified 6 major virtues or strengths of living, and these are the ones they came up with, of course: love, wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, and transcendence. We know that. Then they broke it down into several subcategories under each one, of course. Gratitude, graciousness, gracefulness, forgiveness, all come under love. Being intelligent, smart, solving problems, participating in problems, remembering things come under wisdom. There's a whole lot of these things, and it's wonderful. A series of studies was done using these, what they call signature strengths, and what they found was when people identified their 3 main strengths and expressed each one once a day for 1 week, they had measurable changes in their sense of well-being that lasted 6 months. 6 months. How is that possible? It's possible because once you start doing this for 1 week, you want to keep doing it. Especially if you see your friends and other people doing it. And you see that it radiates a reassurance. It radiates an inclusiveness. It radiates an uplifting energy, which is marvelous to be part of. There's a difference between not doing it and doing it. You can find out more about it. You can Google significant strengths. You can Google positive psychology. You can Google Martin Seligman. And you get a free test. Test is free. And it'll help you identify your 3 main strengths. In unity, we talk about fruits of spirit. In religion, that's common reference. And of course, we're aware of these. It's an old list. And it's a new list. And we're still learning how to live it. How to identify with the source of these energies. If Paul were alive today, the list would include learning how to heal from loss. Learning how to heal from rejection. Learning how to heal in the midst of crisis. Learning how to be loving in our service and and all the opportunities that present themselves, learning how to be more aware of the greater opportunities available, learning resilience and hardiness. It can be learned. Needs more than wants. What strength or virtue does your soul want you to pursue? Not just the personality and the habits and the routines and the various things you're used to and you'd like to have more of, but what does the soul want you to pursue? What virtue or strength do I need more of so that my life will be better, so that the lives of those around me will be better? Before beginning new goals, we have to have skills and an awareness that captures the vision and the mission and the energy behind it. So while you're thinking of that, I'm going to share a story. This is one of the most moving stories I've heard this past year. It's told by an older woman about an event that happened to her when she was 10 years old. Her parents ran a bed and board place, so there were many people coming and going. She had a sister and a brother who were raised with her in a very busy household. Her brother had a physical handicap. His legs didn't work. His arms worked and his brain worked. The person most likely had cerebral palsy. I had a camp counselor like that several years ago. Camp Grassic. Spent a summer. I just have wonderful memories about it. He was just a delightful boy, but he couldn't move his legs. I had to cut his food, but he could feed himself, but his brain was fine. This boy, her brother, was unable to attend school. Back then, they didn't make leeway for kids who couldn't get themselves there, so he didn't go to school. He didn't participate in any of the physical activities. And so obviously he missed out on a great deal. One time they had an acting group visiting with them in the bed and board place. And for some reason they were attracted to this boy and chatted with him. Of course, he was there throughout the day, and maybe, during their odd times, they probably acted at night, and so during the day, the others were busy, but he wasn't. He was available for chatting, and they struck up a relationship, and, at the end of the week, they threw a party. And they were having a great time, singing, drinking, eating, and finally one of them said, "Where's the boy?" He had gone to bed early, which he often did, and they wanted to include him. So they decided to go find him and include him in the party. And then these are her words. "The four men climbed the stairs and went into my brother's room. A sister of mine and I joined them in this visit. What happened? My sleeping brother did not so much as notice his visitors, but the actors fell dumb. When they saw him, they turned pale. Their hair rose up. They were bewildered so much that they backed up. They went on tiptoe down the stairs so as not to wake him in any way. What had they seen? My brother was peacefully asleep in bed, and around his head was a bright light. So dazzling that we all saw it, and nobody dared to go near him. We all slipped quietly away, and afterwards the actors were quietly subdued and hardly dared to raise their voices. All the jollity was gone. They could do nothing but sit and speak in quiet awe about what they had seen. Finally, one of them came over to me and said, 'Do you know you have a saint in the family?' So I didn't know what that was. I had seen halos in pictures, but I hadn't seen anybody have one. But the memory is still vivid with me. From that moment on, I stood in kind of a holy awe of my brother, though nobody ever spoke of it again. Well, there it is, all six of us. We saw this light. Isn't that interesting? I love stories like that. It's real to me. I don't need to meet the person who told it. I don't need to meet any of the actors. So it was a turning point. Turning point certainly for the actors. We don't know how much, but it was. Certainly was for the sister. It changed her life. She didn't forget it. 40 years later, she was invited to send in a story about an unusual story. And send in stories if you got one. She sent this. It occurred over 100 years ago. I heard another great comment this past year. The great drama of our life experience is full of more wonders than Scripture. More wonders than Scripture. The wonders and those of us here, I know are amazing. I've heard many of them, but I know there's a whole lot more going on. And the abilities that we've gained and the learning that has taken place is quite wonderful. And I love the way Reverend Larry continues to tap into that and activate it in each of us. So, could this be a good goal for the coming year, to be more receptive to the interesting, unusual, uplifting events, so that we understand them more, so that we grasp the significance of them more, so that we participate more with them, so we pay more attention and try and figure out, where did that come from? What does that mean? If that's true, what's the significance of that to me and to you? And then share them more. One of the great things that I've participated in this past year is a near-death study group, and every month we have somebody who shares their experience with dying and coming back to life. And it's amazing the things that people share. I can't agree with everything everybody says, and I sure don't expect you to believe everything I'm talking about. And yet, on the other hand, certain things, it sort of resonates deep within you, and you can't help but wonder, well, if that's true, well, what else is true? What else could I be missing? Well, I wonder if there's somebody else I know who's like that. And my suspicion is this boy who had to give up a lot of his life somehow came to grips with it. Somehow became patient, became wise, became gentle in spite of his handicaps, and became a greater person, and for at least a few, became a star. Someone to emulate, someone to watch, someone to learn from, especially. And they're around us in various ways. Of course, the other great thing about unity is there's a star inside. There's always a star shining, always a star shining. Are we giving it enough of a chance to guide us and lead us? Are we reminding ourselves, yeah, it's there. I'm about to make a big decision. Did I discuss this with the star? What does the star want me to do? Beginning the day, beginning a conversation, or reaching a difficult point or a tension point, do we consult with the star? Or do we just use the usual thing? Nah, that couldn't be true. I found out that wasn't true. I know better. Or, well, let me tell you about how I feel about that. Sometimes it's worth consulting with the star in the middle of our conversations. I want this to go somewhere that's meaningful and worthwhile. I might be led to say something that's true, might be difficult, and I'm willing to do it. What's the star think about that? We can do that quickly. We can chew gum and talk at the same time. We can do a whole lot more than that, too, at the same time. Well, anyway, for what it's worth, I would like us to end with a brief prayer. So if you would, please quiet back down again. Of course, you've been very quiet, and I haven't. But I'll offer a few more words here. So let us consider the gifts that this past year has given us. Let us consider the many wonderful events in various ways, large and small, and the key people in our lives. Did we thank them enough? And the star within us, did we thank it enough for getting through the year? Unscathed in many ways, not quite as bad as it could have been. And how can we use this energy we've gained, the insights, the uplifts, the funny things, how can we use it to propel us forward? What question should we be asking of ourselves as we proceed? Star, guide us, guide me in my thinking. Help us to pay attention to the questions life is asking and you would like me to ask. In the process of asking, in the process of putting it forth in a question, I know I'm being led to the answer, that I'm being led, drawn out, so that more of me will extend to those around me. Let us be grateful for the obvious and also for the subtle and for ways we may not have extended ourselves. And whatever oversteps we took, understeps we took, know that forgiveness is present and we can recommit ourselves to do better next year. For all this, we are thankful. And so it is. And so here we are. So in summary, 3 simple steps. Remember the past, rise above it. Rise above the past. Accept who we are, a little more. And reach for what we need more than what we want. Before the beginning, we all had seeds of greatness planted within us. To what extent are we nurturing them, fertilizing them, exposing them to the light, giving them a chance to grow? We are one with all great souls, and one with them in loving service. We need to claim these strengths, add them to ourselves, and be sure we extend ourselves to those around us a little more this next year. Thank you very much for listening and being part of this day.